Hello fellow Novians, welcome to another video in this tutorial series. My name is Rob and today we're going to be talking about the DU damage report, which is a multifunctional Lua script that can tell you a bunch of information and is just all around a nice design element to put in your larger ships or even a small ship. It can tell you some really cool stuff such as what's damaged, how much fuel you have left, where the damaged components are. If you have a big ship and you have problems locating that stuff, it's just all around fun. And before I go any further, I just want to say, if you like this content and you like the other content I do, please don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. It helps me out. It helps all your favorite content creators out, and it is just generally appreciated. So let's get going. So DamageReport was originally created by Dorian the Great. It has now been taken up by Bayou King and Archeggio, who is also the creator of the DU Orbital and now has his own version of DU Orbital called DU Arch. So go check that out. I have links in my other videos on DU Orbital. Or you can just search for DU Arch HUD if you want to use his specifically. So if we go through this page here, there is a whole overview on what is going on. Talks about how to install it, talks about linking order, talks about a bunch of things, shows you a bunch of pictures. You can get a good idea of what this does and what it's going to look like in your ship. But I would be remiss if I didn't go over all of this in a tutorial video, and I was just like, all right, yeah, that's it for now. Go to this page and just look at this stuff. I don't need to do a video. But, you know, some of us are visual learners and like to be talked through things, which is why I created this channel to begin with. So let's go through this stuff. Let me close this display out and we are back on the ship here. Yes, yes. I am using Loaded's Y13 or Y15. I think it's the Y13 hauler. This one is used. It is for sale. If you like it, hit me up. I'll sell it for 10 mil. I think it's listed for like 30 mil new, but I'll list it for 10. It's got boosted components and everything on it. So anyway, what do we need to run this? Well, we need a programming board, we need a data bank, and we need screens because, you know, we like to look at the things and it's pretty. So linking with this is very important, and it tells you on the GitHub page if you get confused. So we're going to open our linking tool, and I'll repeat this a couple times. It is very important how you link things with this because of the way the script works. So we link from the programming board to the core, wherever it is on your ship. We link from the programming board to the data bank. And we link from the programming board to the screens. So that is core, data bank, screens. Always in that order. If you start this script up and it doesn't do anything, or you have some problems with it saving or other weirdness, it's probably because you linked in the wrong order. So in that case, you just pick it up, wipe all the dynamic properties, put everything back down, and try again. So if we go back to the GitHub page, this file right here, DamageReport 316.conf, which is the most recent. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and then we're going to go ahead and click raw, and it's going to give you the raw code. We're just going to Control A, Control C, which is select all, and then copy. And once that's copied, we'll go back to the ship here. And we're just going to go ahead, right click, go to advanced, and paste Lua configuration from clipboard. It'll say script loaded, and at that point we can drop out of build mode. Another thing to do is to set this up is to go to advanced, edit Lua parameters, and we have a bunch of parameters here. So this is something that will screw up your program and might not work. If you don't leave the quotation marks here, it will cause a script error that will cause the whole code not to work. So make sure you leave the quotation marks and you name your ship. So, you know, a normal thing is you just click on this and be like, the blooper, right? Well, if you do that, it won't work. So you got to make sure you put the quotation marks. So quotation mark, quotation mark. And then you have like certain skills in here. These two right here are your skill in repair tool efficiency and optimization. And then these next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 skills are the person who placed the element. So if you're buying a ship from somebody who has all level 5 stats in these things, then you would just set these all to level 5. I'm going to leave them alone. I'm going to leave them alone for now. But yeah, you want to set these to the person who placed the items, not what your own skill is, unless you're the person who placed the items. Down here, we have show welcome message. If you don't want to see that, you can turn it off. Add summertime hours is daylight savings time, so I'll turn that on. And disallow key press. You want to leave that off, otherwise some of the functionality may not work for you. And we'll hit OK, and then we'll go ahead and activate the board. And yay, we have stuff on the screens here, which is great. So initially, these screens are just set to the ship's name and your name. So greetings, Commander Floridaskye. Greetings, board. So let's look at what we have here, right? If you have your tool out, make sure you put it away because it will not work. If you have your tool out, you'll just get no target found consistently, right? Or if you have another tool, just be like, no, what are you doing? So put your tool away, otherwise you can't click on these. So the way this works is you left click where you want on the board here. Don't hit F, it'll just turn the screen off. So if you're like, oh, my screen only turns on and off, you need to click with the mouse. Sorry, buddy. So the first tab we have here is time. That's kind of self-explanatory. You have the time and the date. Next tab is damage. So that will tell you all the damage components you have. On one side of the screen, you have your damaged, and on the other side, you have your destroyed. So if we go into here, nope, in settings, I can simulate damage. So let's go back here, and you can see this is what it would look like if you completely destroyed your ship. So all this red stuff is like stuff that's completely destroyed, and this is stuff that's just damaged. So that's how that shows up. The next screen we have is the damage overview, which you can see like shows you kind of where most of your damage is. So there's a lot of red back here, some yellow, some green, etc. There are other views up here, so you have like your side view and your front view, but depending on how your components are set up, these might just be confusing. So I always just leave the top view kind of so I can see where most of the damage is. And then the next screen is the fuel screen. And this shows you the fuel in your tanks. And that is where the setup is important to put the person who placed this stuff's handling. Because if you don't have the correct skills in there, like right here, it says that I have 138% fuel in here. That's because that tank is boosted and I didn't put any skills in. At the same method, if you put like you have level 4 handling on your fuel tank that you placed, but you only have level 0, it's going to show that you have less fuel than you actually have, which could cause you to crash. So, yep, those things are important. So generally, and another little tip you can do with this code. This code pulls the name of the element. So you can see like this one says large ammo tank, and the rest of these have kind of the default name. So if we look at this, like space fuel tank large, right? If I wanted to, I could go back here. I go into build mode. I can right click, rename element, and we can call this large space tank. Right, if we go back up to the front here, and for any changes to show up on the board, it's not real time. There is a tick command in here, so while you're flying, it will kind of update. But we want to deactivate it and reactivate it for the changes to apply. So now you see right here, it says large space tank instead of the default name. So if you want to go ahead and label all your fuel tanks, it will show up like with the name there, in case you want to see like which tank is draining faster than the other tanks. Yeah. So the next tab here is your HUD. We'll skip that for now. I'll talk about that last. And sets. Set is just your setup for this overall screen setup, right? So you have your deactivate background. That'll just make it a black background. You have your next background. So if you want to scroll through all these, you can see like you got a hex pattern, we got pluses, we got some other stuff, and you can increase and decrease the opacity of that background. So stuff to play around with, right? You can do different colors for different things. If you scroll through these arrows, we have like, oh, what's the color for broken? You could make your broken stuff purple if you're like, I hate that color. And then you have just your color code for everything. Main HUD color, right? So this uses hex, not hex. This uses HTML code. So if you just type in HTML color codes in Google, you'll get a whole list of like different colors you can use. So for this one, I'm just going to set this to 00. FFF, which is blue. And apply, and there you go. You got a new color. So if you have a specific like color scheme for your ship, then this is really cool that you can change the color on that. All right, and then you can click this to simulate damage to elements, which is what I'm doing. So now, as we close out here, let's talk about the HUD. If you click on that, it puts this little HUD on your screen at the top left up here. That shows you all of your damaged components, and kind of gives you an overview on what scrap, how long it's going to take you to repair stuff. So if my entire ship was destroyed with tier 1 scrap, it would take me 3 hours to repair all of my components. If you hit Alt 1 through 4, you can scroll through the different scraps. So if I hit Alt 4, it'll say T4 scrap. So I would need 133 T4 scrap. And it would take me 1 minute and 46 seconds to repair everything with tier 4 scrap. So all, same, Alt 3 is tier 3, Alt 2 is tier 2, etc. You can hold Control and use the mouse button to move this around your screen. Not mouse button, arrow keys. You can hold Control and move the arrow keys. Yeah, Alt 6 resets the position. So if I went out here, I hit Alt 6, it'll not work, apparently. Oh, it's Alt 8. Alt 8 resets the position. Alt 6 does nothing. But the coolest thing about this HUD is that if you use the up and down arrow keys, you can highlight stuff, and it will tell you where it is, kind of. Oh, see these arrows pointing at the container M? That's because I have that highlighted. It shows me this is the thing that's damaged. Go ahead and repair that. And as I scroll through here, like container large. I don't see the arrows on this one. They might, oh, there it is. So if you can't find a component and you're just like, where the heck is this? Like, let's say this engine is broken. You don't know which engine it is. Now that I have it highlighted, I can come back here and, oh, it's this engine. This also is handy for any components that may be buried in the voxel, especially if you didn't build the ship. You might be like, where the heck is this one freaking light that says it's damaged? I can't find it. Well, you can just highlight it, and you'll see these arrows will point at it. You may have to do some searching, but yep, it puts arrows all around the thing that you're trying to find and says, it's right here. Prepare this. Okay. So one way you can get rid of this screen is to hit Alt-9. All that does is stop the code. As soon as you start it up again, it'll pop that HUD back on your screen. So if you don't want that, make sure you come back in here, turn it off on the screen, and you're good to go. And let me turn off this simulate damage because I don't want to get in this ship and be like, holy crap, everything's destroyed. And you can set these different screens to different things. So like this one can be damage, this one can be fuel, this one can be damage overview, or just time. You can have more displays than 3, but keep in mind the programmers say that for every screen you add after 3 increases the likelihood of a script shutdown, which will just shut down the entire script. It could shut down all of your scripts. So be aware if you're using like a DU orbital or something like that, and you keep having script shutdowns, it could be that you have too many screens for your DU damage. All right. And that is pretty much that. One thing to keep in mind that's also very important is that programming boards turn off after a set amount of time if you're away from the ship. So if I go like across the runway over there and work on something else and I come back to this ship, the board is probably off. One way to tell is to look at the board, and if it says activate, it's off. So right now it says deactivate. That means it's running, it's on. So that is very important, especially if you're using this as your main fuel display. After a long flight, you may land, you may go do something like run over to the market and sell a bunch of goods and come back, and you're like, oh, I still have 55% large ammo fuel in here. Okay, I'm good to go. When, the board is deactivated. So when you activate the board again, it may pop this back on. It'll be like 16%. You're like, oh crap, I better refuel that. So it's a good thing to put the board where you can kind of activate it while you're in the seat, just to like toggle it off and back on if you need to refresh it or the script crashes. Some people have attached these to detection zones. I would not advise that. It works great if it's a single person ship that's staying in atmosphere. Then it'll just refresh your board every time you walk through the detection zone. But if you have multiple people on your ship, then anytime they walk through the detection zone, it'll turn it back off. And you'll just have all these crazy wonky problems. And in space, those stupid little particles that fly past the ship actually set off your detection zones, which is a great way to create a Lua bomb. If you have a bunch of programming boards hooked up to a detection zone, and then you go into space, suddenly all your boards will start shutting off and on and off and on and off and on. You'll have massive like script errors, and then your game will crash. And probably anybody else who's anywhere near your ship will crash. So be aware of that. And I would just say don't attach things to these detection zones. I'll do I'm planning on doing another video on how to use detection zones to the best of their ability and when not to use them. And we'll look at all that like crazy wonkiness. But until then, that is the end of this video. If you liked the video, please don't forget to pop that thumbs up button. It really does help small content creators. It helps large ones too, but I'm sure they're getting enough thumbs ups for everyone. Anyway, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell icon to be notified anytime I drop a new video. Until next time, I will see you out there in space. Stay safe.